Let's just start with a bit of a sense of why you came along to today's conference.
So if I kick off, as the Chief Executive of COSLA, I'm here because it's one of the #1 priorities of council leaders across Scotland. We really want to support all our communities to make sure people feel safe and valued, and so this conference is all about hope. It's all about making a difference in people's lives, and councils have a vital role in terms of providing the services and the support that people need to live better lives and happier lives. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to provide some of that information.
Brilliant. And Neil, just connect education and justice into this today.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm here as a representative of the Scottish Government, and we've worked closely with COSLA in developing and implementing the suicide prevention strategy. But as you say, suicide and the impact is absolutely crucial to both the education and justice interests. We know the impact that trauma has within the justice system and the links between mental health and justice. We also know the tremendous hope that our education system can provide to people, where we give those opportunities and make sure that people are able to seize those and grow from them. And that's really crucial to a preventative approach.
You took part in a conversation with the Lived and Living Experience panel, a couple of representatives there on stage. Tell us about that.
It was fantastic, actually. So Jonathan and Ross had worked with the rest of the Lived and Living Experience panel, identified some key questions. So the questions were really good. They were searching. They were the pertinent questions to ask us. And I really enjoyed it, actually. It gives us an opportunity to reflect on what we do individually, but also what we can do collectively, which I thought was really great.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that. Even before it, the chance to speak to some of the people at the conference about the work that they do and some of the issues that have been talked about at the event was really helpful as well. And I thought that the questions that we were asked were really thought-provoking, both in terms of how we work together in local government and government, but particularly that message of the conference today around turning those strategies and priorities into action on the ground. And I thought that the conversation really covered that well.
And I think the group probably reflected something we hear from a lot of people, that there's a lot of work being done to create a really thorough, deep, long-term strategy. There's a really clear plan, but there's probably a lot of people agitating at this point in terms of seeing that progress, which I suppose is the theme of the conference, representing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the suicide prevention strategy and the action plan that it relates to are absolutely based on evidence that we get from our communities, from our officers, and from all those experts in the third sector, which are vital. So we know the way forward and we know what we have to do, and today is absolutely about harnessing that collective energy to make sure we're actually doing something about it. And I suppose Neil and I were reflecting in the discussion about our role as leaders in that system and how we make sure that we're driving to make sure that action's happening, but also how are we also listening?
Yeah, and every single death by suicide is an absolute tragedy. So whatever we are doing, whatever positive work we are doing, we need to keep focusing on that and keep it moving forward. And I think it's one of the most difficult challenges that we face across lots of areas of government, is recognising progress where we are making it. And I was talking about some of the work that's happened in schools, again with the support of COSLA and local government, and that is really positive, and we need to recognise those positive examples, but also recognise that there's more that we need to do. And again, I think that's one of the messages that I took from today, was recognise what's good but build on it for the future.
And people who work in this space feel it deeply. I mean, I was talking to one of our colleagues in one of the local communities. I won't name it for what I'm going to say next, but in the last month 3 people have died by suicide in their community, and they're deeply affected by that. We see the trend might show a reduction over 5 years, but that isn't something that's ever really felt, if you like, because of people continuing to die.
Absolutely. I think it's great when we make progress, but we're still losing far too many of people who we love and value in our communities to suicide. So there's no complacency here. I think what you're mentioning, the local colleagues that are doing the work and being with those people in those communities, they are the heartbeat of this work. And one of the great things we do in Scotland is there's a really clear chain of communication all the way up to senior politicians in both local and national government. So I think those people who care so much and are doing so much great work, they're at the heart of making sure we're doing what we need to at a national level.
What do you see is happening next? Where do we go? Where do we go next? When you walk out the building today, you head back to government, head back into COSLA and talk to your elected officials and so on. What would you be saying to them?
Yeah, well, we've got the long-term strategy and with the action plan for taking that forward, and it's important that we recognise that and continue working on it. But one of the things that we were talking about in the hall was about this particular time when we've just had a Scottish election. We've got ministers in new roles, a government re-energised and wanting to move forward. We'll have local government elections next year as well. So I see this as an opportunity for us to refresh, look again at our policies, redouble our efforts and see where there's potential for us to do things differently. And I think one of the areas that certainly ministers have said they're keen is for more cross-government working, and that means us working much better. So obviously I work in the areas of education and justice, but huge amounts of what we do relies on the health service, relies on housing, relies on transport as well. So I think one of the responsibilities I've got is to take the messages back from today and talk to my colleagues within government, and then obviously for Jane and I and colleagues within COSLA and local government to think about what more we can do following from that as well.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think there's the focus on public service reform gives us an opportunity to make the changes we haven't been able to make up till now, which could make a huge difference to making sure we're delivering the right services for those communities and focusing on the people in those communities, something we've not always done particularly well in the past, but we're getting better at. So this is the opportunity, this is the time, and with a new government in Holyrood and a new set of local government next year, we'll have refreshed political impetus as well. So the time is now.
And you talked about prevention, which is obviously in the name, suicide prevention in Scotland, but that's something it was really interesting to hear about. Maybe just reflect on that and where you see that.
Yeah, so the strategy and the action plan are absolutely all about prevention. If we don't prevent people becoming ill or sad or disillusioned or lost in some way, then we're failing people entirely. But there's a really good sort of structure to this now. So not only do we have the suicide prevention strategy, we've got the population health framework, we've got the health and social care framework, we've got a new national performance framework coming out, and we've got the public service reform, and they're all talking about prevention. So that gives us really good supporting structure to make sure that prevention is what's driving us. And some really great examples across the country of local authority and government agencies sort of pulling money together, even while budgets are tight, to find the money to make a difference and to deliver specifically prevention services, and that's what we need to do a lot more of.
And I suppose, Neil, that point about prevention and cross-government working, if you can bring those two things together, there's probably a really sweet spot that improves people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And that should be the heart of what we're doing. It's what all of us came into public service to do. I think one of the benefits of prevention that we maybe undersell is the multiple benefits that you get from that. If we can do work to tackle deprivation, if we can do work to tackle the issues that arise in the early years, that then delivers benefits across the education system, it delivers benefits across the justice system, it delivers benefits across a whole range of areas in government. And often those areas of prevention aren't necessarily ones that you would think of traditionally. So for example, we've been speaking to young people about youth work and the importance of youth work opportunities to them. That access to positive role models, positive opportunities can make a huge difference to people's life experiences. It helps them engage with school, it helps them engage with other opportunities that are available. And it's seeing where those things that we wouldn't traditionally think of as issues to do with mental health, but actually have a huge positive impact on people's lives.
And finally, lived and living experience. Where does that sit in terms of building this policy in practice and action?
So for me, I was involved in sort of the first iteration of the suicide prevention group in Scotland, and lived and living experience. People sat next to us, sort of as policy geeks, and they helped us learn and they helped us understand what we needed to do. I think this is the best example in Scotland of lived and living experience panels being able to influence and direct and drive work. I think it is unsurpassed, and I often point other colleagues in the direction of this panel and ask them to speak to the panel to find out what works. I think there's something about how we as leaders make sure we continue to recognise that incredible, invaluable experience and the generosity of those people in terms of sharing their experience to us.
And I think for all of us, we recognise that suicide is an individual tragedy, but it impacts on families, it impacts on workplaces, it impacts on communities as well, and recognising that we'll all have had those experiences and recognise the traumatic impact that suicide has more broadly, and it just re-emphasises why it's an issue where we in COSLA work together so closely, because we recognise the importance of responding to it and the benefits if we can provide that preventative approach for individuals and more broadly for society.